Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Rachel from Evelyn and Peter, and today I have the Poppy Cardigan crochet pattern to share with you guys. So if you're familiar with the Poppy Pullover, then this is the sister design to the Poppy Pullover. I obviously had to make a cardigan version of it. You guys loved the Poppy Pullover so much, and I'm so grateful that you did, and so I wanted to bring you guys a cardigan version as well. We've got our cardigan girls and our pullover girls, so you know, I had to bring you both. I hope you guys like this pattern. You can find it free on my blog. So it's the same as the Poppy Pullover, the same yarn as the Poppy Pullover, just in the print version instead of the solid version. So this is the 24/7 cotton DK yarn, which is really soft. It's not the 24/7 cotton worsted. This is the DK version, so it's super soft. I love it so far for clothes, and I actually have one more pattern coming using this yarn this summer, so I hope you guys like it too. It's really awesome. So you can see the similarities in the pullover and the cardigan here. I have the panels worked from the bottom up, and then the cute little cuffed sleeves. I left the side slit on the cardigan as well as the pullover, and then you have this V neckline here. So yeah, if you liked the Poppy Pullover, you will probably like this cardigan version of it too. I will link to the free pattern on my blog. I'll put that in my description. And then the kit is also available with Lion Brand, and the kit comes with all the yarn you need to make your cardigan, plus a free copy of the pattern. They send you a link to the digital download, the printable version, so you can print that out and follow along. And then you can change up your yarn color if you want to. So if you don't like this printed kind, you can switch out the yarn color to whatever you see on their website that you like. And then they also have really good sales frequently, and if you're on my newsletter, I like to let you guys know about those sales when they're really awesome. So if they have a 30% off or 35% off sale, I will let you guys know. I promise I never spam you if you're on my newsletter. I only let you know if there is a new pattern coming out, a new tutorial coming out, or a really good sale on either my kits and or my patterns that are in my shop. So to get on my newsletter, you can just go to my blog and put your email in the pop-up. So there is that, and then it's also available in my Etsy shop and in my Ravelry shop for a low price. You can get the printable version there as well. So I think that is it for this pattern. There's nothing too crazy that you need to know about it. Very straightforward, and really fun to make. And I hope you guys like it, and let me know if you have any questions. You can email me, or if you leave a comment here on YouTube, I might not see it all the time because I do get lots of questions on other platforms. So if you really need my help, make sure you email me. And if not, and you just want someone in the crochet community out there to answer you, you can leave a comment below, and there's lots of really awesome people out there that are happy to help answer questions. So I hope you guys like this design, and I will catch you in the next video. So to make the Poppy cardigan, you're going to need some lightweight yarn. I'm using Lion Brand's 24/7 cotton DK in the prints version. The solid version does have a different yardage amount, so just keep that in mind. I'm using the color Sea Glass, and all of the exact yardage and skein requirements for all sizes are on my blog. And then you're also going to need a J 6mm crochet hook, a needle to weave in your ends, a pair of scissors, and then a couple of stitch markers as well. So all of the panels for this design start off exactly the same by making a series of chains. I'm going to show you here on the back panel. You're going to begin with a slip knot, and then we're going to start chaining. So just yarn over and pull through the loop on your hook. I am making a size small, and for the back panel, I need a total of 91 chains. And then again, your front panels and your sleeves will also start off this exact same way. So when you make those, you can also go back and re-watch this if you need to. It is all the exact same. The only difference is your chain count and stitch count for your panels. So go ahead and work up the amount of chains required for your size, and then I will meet you back here to show you how to do row 1. So once you have your starting chain complete, you're going to be working row 1. We are going to be skipping the first 2 chains, and we're going to be putting our hook into the 3rd chain from the hook. And I like to put my hook in the back bump of the chain, so I'm going to rotate my work and just insert my hook into the back bump of the 3rd chain, and then yarn over and pull up a loop, and you have 2 loops on your hook right now. And then you're going to do the same thing in the next chain, so go ahead and put your hook in the very next chain following, and then yarn over and pull up a loop, and you have 3 loops on your hook now. And then we're going to complete the stitch, so you're going to yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops only, and then yarn over, pull through the final 2 loops. And then we're going to chain 1 after this as well. So every time you work a stitch, there is a chain 1 in between each one. If you have a hard time figuring out what the top of the stitch is, you could put a stitch marker right here in the top of the stitch we just made, so you know later on. And if not, you can just keep going. So chain 1, and then we're just going to repeat this across the entire chain. So go ahead and insert your hook in the very following chain. You're not skipping any here. And then yarn over and pull up a loop. And then insert your hook into the chain directly after that one. Yarn over, pull up a loop. Again, we have 3 loops on our hook, and you're just going to yarn over, pull through the first 2, and then yarn over, pull through the final 2. And then don't forget to work your chain 1 as well. So go ahead and yarn over and just pull through. And again, we're just doing the same thing all the way across. So I'll show you again. Insert your hook into the next chain, yarn over and pull up a loop, insert your hook into the following chain, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and chain 1. Go ahead and repeat this across your starting chain, and I will meet you guys at the end of the row and show you how to complete it. Okay, so I have 3 chains remaining, and we're going to go ahead and work another stitch here. So we're going to be doing the same thing. Insert your hook into the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, insert into the next, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then chain 1. And then in your final chain of the row, you're just going to work a regular single crochet stitch. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then yarn over, pull through 2, and you have finished with a single crochet. And I have a total of 89 stitches. We are counting the chain 1 in between as a stitch. So when you look at the stitch count, that counts as part of your stitches. So just remember that as well, and you should go ahead and count to make sure you have the correct amount before moving on. And then now we are going to start row 2. And row 2 is what we will be repeating throughout the rest of the panel. So you're going to begin by chaining 2, and the chain 2 does not count as a stitch. So this is for every row here on out. You're not going to count the chain 2 as a stitch. So we're going to work our hook in the very first stitch of the row below, which is our single crochet from the previous row that we made. You'll always put your hook in this stitch first, except for when you are working the decrease rows. So you have a stitch and then a chain and a stitch and a chain from the previous row. So insert your hook into the first stitch and then yarn over, pull up a loop. And then in the chain space from the previous row, you're going to put your hook into that. So you don't need to put it into the actual chain stitch. You just can put it in the chain space. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop. You have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then chain 1. So we're just going to be doing this across the row. So you can see there's the top of the stitch and there's the chain 1. And then in the next spot below, this next following stitch is the top of the stitch. And then the stitch after that is the chain. You can kind of tell that the chains are a little bit smaller, so that's a good way to identify it if you're having trouble figuring out where your chain space is. The tops of the chain stitches look a little bit smaller than the tops of the actual stitch that we make. So we're just going to be working this stitch all the way across, same as we did in row 1, except now you're working into a stitch and a chain space instead of into chains. So insert your hook into the top of the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, insert your hook into the chain space, which is underneath that tinier stitch, and then yarn over, pull up a loop. And then with 3 loops on your hook, just yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through the final 2, and then chain 1. So as you're working your way across making your stitches, you want to make sure that you're not tugging your yarn too tightly. Try and keep an even tension as you go. You don't want to snug it and pull it down. If you're used to having a tight tension or really pulling at your stitches, you want to make sure that you loosen up a little bit, loosen your grip, and try to just keep everything nice and even. As you work your way across the row. It's supposed to have more of a mesh look to it and be a little bit more holey. So if you think that your stitches look a little open, they are supposed to look open. That's the whole point of this stitch and the style. So just try and keep your tension even as you work your stitches across. So I'm going to show you guys one more time how to work the stitch before letting you work your way across the row. So this next one here is where we'll be putting our hook, which is the top of the stitch. And then you can see that the chain is just slightly smaller than what the top of the stitch is. So that's a good way to identify it if you're having trouble figuring that out. And you'll just put your hook into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, put your hook into the chain space, not the actual chain, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, chain 1. And you're just going to repeat this across the row, and then I will meet you at the end of the row to show you how to finish it off. So I'm coming up on the end of row 2 here, and I have 3 stitches left. So I'm going to show you how to finish off this row. You're going to work a regular stitch here, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, insert your hook into the chain space, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Don't forget your chain 1 after you work it, and then in the very final stitch of the row, just work a regular single crochet to finish it off. So that is how you complete row 2, and row 2 is what you will be working throughout the rest of the panel. You'll just be repeating it over and over and over again until you have the correct amount of rows for your size. So again, you would turn your work and chain 2, and the chains do not count as a stitch. And then you would just go directly into working your stitches, starting in that very first stitch and then the very first chain space. And you're just going to repeat it as many times as needed. Again, I am making the size small, and this is the back panel, and I'm going to work a total of 60 rows here. So I'm just going to keep going. I'm on row 3 now, and for rows 3 through 60, I'm just gonna continue to repeat row 2 over and over again, and your stitch count will stay the same throughout. If you are making a different size, make sure you follow along with the written pattern so you can check and see what your stitch count and your row count needs to be, because it will be different depending on what size you make. So go ahead and just work up the right amount of rows for your size, and I will meet you back here once the back panel is complete. So once you have the correct amount of rows for your size, go ahead and fasten off your back panel, and then you're going to need to make your front panels here, and they start off exactly the same as the back panel. So if you need to, you can go back and re-watch how to do the starting chain and row 1 and row 2. The only difference here is that the starting chain is a different stitch count. So for the size small, I will be chaining 45, and then I will be working rows 1 and 2 and repeating row 2 over and over and over again until I have a total of 48 rows for this panel. So you'll want to make sure that you have your chain count and your row count correct by checking on my blog and making sure that you have the right amount for your size, and then go ahead and work up those rows. So rows 1 through 48 for the size small, and then we will have to do some shaping on this first front panel, and we will also have to do some shaping on our second front panel as well, and they are both slightly different in the shaping area, and I'm going to show you how to do both. So this one that I have here is the right front panel, which is the left panel when you are wearing your cardigan, and we need to do some decreasing on one side, and then on the other front panel we'll be doing the same thing, just the decreasing will be slightly different because we want both of our panels to face the same direction and both of them to have the right sides facing out. So our decreases are going to look a little bit different. On one panel we'll start decreasing a row earlier than on the other front panel, and then your decreases will be swapped so that when you sew your cardigan together, everything is facing the right way. So I'm going to show you how to do this first one here. So we're going to be working our way across this row as normal, and then we're going to be decreasing once we get to the end of the row. So for row 49 here, work your stitches like you would normally, chain 2, work your way across, and then when you get to the end of row 49 here, we're going to be starting our decrease. So we have 3 stitches left of the row, and the decrease is really simple. Just work your stitches like normal here in the next 2 stitches. So go ahead and insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, insert your hook into the following chain space, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over, pull through 2. And now the only difference here is we are not chaining 1. So after you work your stitch, do not chain 1, just finish with a single crochet into the final stitch, and we have decreased our row by 1 stitch count. So it's the same all the way across, except you leave out that last chain 1 at the end, finish your final single crochet, and then turn your work. So now we are starting row 50 for the size small. So go ahead and chain 2, and then for this decrease row, you're going to be skipping over the single crochet. So the last stitch of the previous row, you're just going to skip right over it, and then we're going to go right back into our regular stitches starting in the second stitch. So right here is where we will be starting. So you're just going to skip over that first one, so that gives us a decrease, and then start in the following stitch working our stitches as normal. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, insert your hook into the chain space, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and chain 1, and then that decreases us again by 1 stitch for our total stitch count of this row. And again, the chain 2 does not count as a stitch here, just like everywhere else. So with every decrease row that you do, you will be going down in stitch count by 1. So this is row 50 for the size small, and once I get to the end of the row, I will have a total of 41 stitches. And then these 2 rows that I'm showing you here is what we will be repeating for all of our decrease rows. So this current row plus the previous row are the 2 rows that you need to repeat to continue decreasing up the neckline. So for rows 51 through 60, you're going to be repeating these 2 rows for the size small. Again, it'll be different depending on the size that you are making, so just make sure you check that. But for the next amount of rows 51 through 60, again for the size small, is what you'll be repeating and losing 1 stitch count with each row that you go. And then once you hit row 60, you will have a total of 31 stitches remaining for the size small. So you can see I have this nice angle and decrease here, and then I have 31 stitches for my last row, which is row 60. And that finishes off the first front panel, which is the left panel when you're wearing it, but the right panel when you have it out in front of you. So now we have to do this same thing all over again for the second front panel. So now for the second front panel here, which is the left front panel or the right panel when you are wearing your cardigan, I have rows 1 through 47 complete for this. So our decrease rows are going to start on a different row than what they did on the previous panel. So if you see that within the pattern and you get confused, it is supposed to be that way. We want to, basically we're decreasing flipped or on the opposite side as we're working. So I have a total of 47 rows here. instead of 48 like I did in the previous one. And now I'm going to start my first decrease row, which is row 48. And I am going to just work my way across like normal. So this is the exact same thing. We're just starting our decreases on a different row than we did in the first front panel. So I'm going to show you basically the same thing over again. It's just on a different row that we are starting. So I'm at the end of row 48 here, and I have 3 stitches left, and I'm going to work my stitch like normal, and then I am not going to chain 1. So I'm going to skip that chain 1 and then just finish with a single crochet into the final stitch. And I will have a total of 42 stitches here for the size small because we decreased by 1. And then you can go ahead and turn your work and chain 2. And then now we are on row 49 for this decrease area, and it is the same thing as before. You're going to skip over that first single crochet, and then in that following stitch is where you're going to begin working your stitches, and then just continue on as normal as you have been. So for rows 50 through 59, you'll be repeating these 2 rows that I just showed you. You'll notice that it's 1 row less than the first front panel. So to finish off this front panel for row 60, you just need to do a regular row. So you're not decreasing for row 60. You're just going to work your regular stitches across as normal and just do a regular row repeat instead of a decrease row. So for rows 50 through 59, work your decrease rows, and then row 60, you will finish with a regular row, and you will no longer be decreasing for that final row, and you will have a total of 31 stitches for this panel, just like you did on the previous panel, ending with 31 stitches. So once we have our front panels complete, we also need to make 2 sleeve panels. And the sleeves are very simple and the same as everything else. Start off the exact same way, working your starting chain. I am going to work 53 chains for the size small, and then rows 1 and 2 will be exactly the same as they are in all the other panels. And then you will just repeat row 2 for a total of 17 rows for the size small, or your row count will be different if you are making a different size, so just check that. But basically you just have 17 rows here of a row 2 repeat, creating a small rectangle, and you need to make 2 of these, and we will be folding them up to create a cute little cuff at the bottom of the sleeve. And then once you have 2 sleeve panels, make sure you leave a long tail for sewing the sleeves onto your panels as well. So after you have all 5 of your panels made, your back panel and your 2 front panels and your 2 sleeves, we're going to start joining them together. I have my back panel laying out in front of me, and you want to have the right side facing up, and the right sides of all of our panels are row 1. So when you're looking at your cardigan and you are looking at the right side of row 1, that is the right side of the sweater, or the side of the sweater that you will be seeing on the outside when you are wearing it. So have your back panel laying out right side up, and then you're going to take your front panels and place them down on top of your back panel, right sides facing down. So you have the right sides facing each other, and then we are going to sew our 2 front panels to our back panel up at the shoulders. So just go ahead and place them out, and then we're going to be using our tail of yarn that we left on the front panels to join them to the back panel. You can use any sewing method that you prefer here. If you prefer using your needle, you can use a needle, and you can do any sort of stitch or joining method that you prefer to do. It is totally up to you. There's no right or wrong way here with the joining, whichever you think looks best or is your favorite way to do it. I'm just going to use the tail of my yarn on the front panels, and I'm going to use my hook, and I'm just going to slip stitch across to join the front panels to the back panel. And just in case you want to see how to join using a slip stitch, I'm just going to show you really quick. I'm putting my hook into the very last stitch of each of the panels, and then I'm just going to take my tail and slip stitch across. As normal, joining the 2 panels together, you can either put your hook into the actual chain stitch or just into the chain space, whichever way you think looks best. And then just make sure that your panels are lined up evenly as you go as well, and that you're not skipping over any stitches. And then once you get to the end of the front panel, just fasten off and repeat on the other side as well. So once you have your front panels and back panels seamed together at the shoulder, let's just pretend mine is joined here, and you're just going to lay it out and take your first sleeve panel, and you want the right sides facing the same way as the other ones. So my right side is facing down right now so that all the seams are on the inside, and then you can use stitch markers to pin it into place if you want, but you want to make sure your sleeve is not bunched up. And the center shoulder seam that you just made is directly in the center of the sleeve panel. So everything is lined up nice and even, and then you're just going to join your sleeve across there. You can use whatever method that you want as well for this one. You can either slip stitch or sew with a needle. And then once you have the sleeve joined on this side, you can go ahead and repeat on the other side as well. And then we are going to seam down the sides of the cardigan. So if you've already fastened off your yarn from sewing on the sleeve, you can join back in at the bottom part of the sleeve with a slip stitch, and then just kind of work an L shape, joining the sleeve together and down the side of the cardigan. So you can join in, work across the bottom of the sleeve to join it, and then work down the side of the cardigan. And then I left a 6-inch slit here at the bottom, and then you just need to repeat the same thing on the other side as well. So we just want to join the rest of the sleeves and the sides of the cardigan. Don't forget to leave that slit if you plan on having the little side slits. And then once you are done joining everything together, we're just going to add a quick trim around the opening of our cardigan, which is super simple. I did not film that part of it, but I'm going to show you guys here how to do it really quick. So you're going to turn your cardigan right side facing out, so that the seams are all on the inside now. And then you can also fold the cuffs of your sleeve up and put a little stitch at the bottom to hold it in place if you want, or if you want the option to have them rolled and unrolled, you can just leave them how they are. And then for the trim, you're going to take a piece of yarn and join in here at the bottom inner corner of your first front panel with a slip stitch, and then just chain 1 and work single crochet stitches evenly up the side and then along the back neckline, and then back down the other front panel. When you reach the bottom corner here, just go ahead and fasten off. And then all you have to do is weave in any remaining ends that you have using your needle, and then just go ahead and cut all those extra tails of yarn out. And that is it for this design. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.